Okay, hello and welcome everyone to the LinkedIn Live. This is a LinkedIn Live which I do every Tuesday with interesting people from Web3, crypto, and today I have a very special guest because I tried recording one podcast with Siddharth last week and we did almost 45 minutes, but I thought we should extend and do a part two of this as well. So thank you for coming again and giving your time, Siddharth. Welcome on this LinkedIn Live.
Thanks for having me here, Jake.
Great. So we spoke a lot about your journey of how you started Wazirex, what you were doing before that, and how you're working on multiple ideas. But this time, I wanted to specifically talk about gaming economy, how game economy is growing, what do you see as a future, and what you're building currently at Tegro. So these are my starting points. So yeah.
Awesome. I think very just going very high level to sort of get an understanding about what this excitement about Web3 gaming is, right? I think in general, we are going to uh, a new world. People call it metaverse, or some call it super world, whatever. Like, so the whole idea is this, right? Like, so we starting with this whole starting with a village, right? We were as a humankind, as all human race. The trade happened very personally. You could barter and do things. Then we went to town. Then you were trading with strangers. So that's when the currency came in. Then the kingdom happened. We're growing bigger, and obviously governance also going bigger. And the most important thing is then after kingdom came the country, right? So now we are in that part where everybody's part of a country, not a kingdom. Now, because of the internet, everything is now changing again. Now we are trying to build another layer on top of this country, call it metaverse, call it a super nation. But the whole idea is it again creates an economy value. It again creates opportunity, communication, collaboration, everything that you can think about. What was even happening before, right? So it's almost like you're just part of it, right? There's no country that is dividing it. You're just part of it. So I think in this whole evolution, crypto plays a very important role, especially in terms of bringing scaling trust, which is you don't trust a government anymore. You can simply trust a piece of code, which we all agree that this is how it will work, and also that opens up financial economic activity as well within this whole world. And to me, when this opportunity is coming in, you go back to everything that is happening. I believe we are getting into this virtual economy, which is getting more real and real, right? People are making money out of internet, right? It's no longer a myth. People are making money out of it. It is getting more real. So I think gaming itself would evolve. So far, gaming had its own in-app economy, very micro economy. But now we are going to test the open economy, and we are in that whole phase of testing it out. It To me, it feels like a very inevitable future because now you're part of a connected world. Now you're part. The virtual world is no longer a myth. Virtual world is a reality. People spend hours and hours in gaming, with their friends, whether it's Roblox and everything. So the whole behavior is changing, and to me, this economy is getting real, and we are at that forefront of that doing, making that shift in next few years. And being around that is very exciting. To solve for that is very exciting. And there are numerous problems to be solved, right? Like the very basics, like economy basics, like how do people understand what is the value. And these are very basic things to solve. But this is an inevitable problem to be solved, right? Anywhere it will be either me or somebody else will do it. And that by opens up a very big virtual economy. To put things in number, from a gaming perspective, the gaming industry itself is very big. I don't know if people have been following this. The gaming industry, the yearly revenue itself is up to $250 billion. That's purely coming from gaming. That by itself says that the entire industry is, even if you do a 3x or 4x, it's almost close to a $1.2 trillion industry. So that is where we are sitting on, which is by default bigger than the crypto industry, right? So in crypto, we are in the financial layer, we are building the infrastructure, we are building, many basic layers. But I think we need a high utility, which in my opinion is what games would bring in. And I think that's very exciting, both in terms of market, in terms of problem to solve, and in terms of seeing this evolving into something bigger.
So Siddharth, I mean, at least in my mind, when I hear about gaming, I always think of few 20, 25-year-old kids wearing a hoodie, playing games with a very dark side of gaming. I'm not saying it from a negative perspective. I think probably media has been portraying gaming as this. And so are we only targeting, is this gaming only selected to those hardcore gamers, or we're talking about gaming which will cover everything? What are your views on gaming as a definition is what I wanted to
Absolutely.
understand.
Absolutely. I think first of all, gaming is not something that is restricted to anybody, even today, right? Like, uh, let let alone Web3, but I think even today it's not restricted to everybody. People who play Candy Crush probably don't call themselves as gamer, but they're still gamers, right? They're just playing games, like casual games. People who are playing, chess,
Hmm.
whether it's, I mean, there was a point that a lot of chess being was played on the board.
Hmm.
Now the record number of chess that is being played online, right? So the game has just evolved online, and it's much more easier to get started and play with anybody anywhere. And so when you think about it, game by itself has a very broad spectrum of adoption.
Hmm.
But yes, I think as a society, when we say gamer, we are talking
Hmm.
about people, with a neon light around and
Correct.
sitting in a dark room and playing whole day,
Hmm.
certain games. And thanks to mobile gaming, today you will see people playing games while they are traveling in
Hmm.
metro. So
Correct.
playing PUBG, playing Fortnite, playing very casual games. Sorry, playing these FPS game, or probably very casual games like Candy Crush.
Hmm.
So in general, in the Web 2 world, game is quite broad.
Hmm.
Now coming to the Web3 world, right? I think it's going to create another new genre.
Hmm.
And an analogy that I would always bring in is, when we were playing desktop games and mobile games were coming in, right? People never thought that, hey, mobile games will become big, because desktop, you have mouse, you have keyboard, you can run around with your gun and shoot things. But things have evolved, right? Now mobile gaming is bigger than desktop gaming, right? So there are more people playing PUBG on mobile, or Fortnite on mobile. So things are evolving. So to me, I think we are going to get into another new genre, which probably doesn't target the existing desktop or a mobile gamer, but
Hmm.
probably a new genre for completely different people, like people
A
who
new
actually.
set of audience will come in and they'll start playing.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, people whom we've been interviewing, right, talking to people who got into the whole Web3 gaming, play to earn, and you just start talking to them, you realize they are not pretty hardcore gamers. They're
Hmm.
just folks who saw this opportunity, learned it, having fun, and then doing it again and again.
Uh,
And I think these are just new kind of people who are coming in. So obviously, there will be folks with who've been playing, games would also jump in, but I
hmm.
think it also attracts new genre of people, and I think that's pretty interesting, because
Understand. Understand.
Web3 gaming is not only about playing skills. Okay,
Hmm.
obviously it's important, but there's also a business skill, because you're managing money.
Hmm.
So you need to know, when to buy, when to sell, or what skills that you should adopt to get X. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting, just like in real life, right? Where till now, whatever you do within the game doesn't have any financial impact, but now it just gets real. Games get real, not just by the graphics or the sound, but also financially. I think
Right.
that's right.
So I think, I mean, I really like your perspective because everybody has been saying and thinking and onboarding, looking to onboard existing gamers to Web3, which is definitely a difficult task because we are maybe Web3 gaming is, I mean, definitely does not reach the level of what somebody who plays a triple A game, he will not move to a simple game. But I think your point is right that people will move from Web3, they will enter in Web3 and then maybe they can move to other types of gaming.
Absolutely. I mean, it's too early to segment it out, to say that, hey, people who've been trading will play games, or people who've been playing mobile games will move to this. Of course, that everything is a funnel, but till now we have not see. I mean, it's early to say what is the biggest funnel to crack, right? We are all trying everywhere, but to me, I think folks who have good time, and because there's a financial incentive, they playing for somebody else looks like a very good market in general. Because ultimately, investment comes in, money goes out, and then you want to double it more. You yourself cannot play that for yourself, alone. You need to get more people to do it. So the skillful players actually play for somebody else, and that's how they do it. And there's this whole demand supply that comes in over time, which actually drives the gaming industry.
So,
And it's sort of happening in the Web2 world right now. The whole
mhm, correct.
esports team being sponsored, playing for
Mhm,
somebody else. Those are things that is happening. But obviously it is very centralized. It's not democratized in a big way. But I think with this, we will see that shift happening and probably exploding the whole gaming industry.
correct. So, do we see Siddharth owning a Mumbai Indians kind of team and hopefully doing something like an IPL, which is Web3 gaming league in India or across the globe? So, is that also on the cards?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. It'll not be just me, right? It'll be everybody. So the best part is you don't have to be richy to do it. It'll be like even a
Yeah,
folk like
I could also
who's
be a
just
take
getting
part on that.
started, few $1,000, or maybe 1,000 rupees in INR.
Right,
Just get started. So the accessibility is there for everybody, and
right.
and I think that's the key here. Getting that accessibility to be part of this will be good to see. And I'm talking maybe we'll need a couple of more years for this model to come alive,
Right.
properly. But it's an inevitable future. It's going to come here or there. It's here to stay.
So you're saying maybe it'll start happening like how currently esports gaming happen at a very large level. There will be Web3 gaming, and everybody could. I mean, I can also own maybe a certain tokens and be a part of that winning team who could win. Wow, that's
And the very good example, what we saw in 2020 and 2021 were guilds. Guilds where
hmm,
they themselves were doing this, right? They were buying things in bulk. They were employing a lot more gamers who
hmm,
were paying for them and getting earning from that, and then sharing revenue. So in a way, what I'm saying is not even in future. It has We have seen a small V1 of that in the
hmm.
past, and I think this is only going to get better and more fine tuned in future.
Correct. So that you spoke about P2, and for a lot of our new users who are just entering into the space, can you explain what does P2E means? And I mean, for a bit mature users, we know what P2E means, but are there any better versions, better formats of P2E? Because we have seen P2E being failed miserably in last few years. But are there any other, or what are your views, which could be better ways of players to work here?
Absolutely. So I think first the definition of what is play to earn, or I mean, there's a lot of words on it, but to me, this basically game five, right? It's not just play to earn. There are many
Hmm.
things that can happen, and we are bringing in a financial layer on top of it. What does that mean for anybody else, right? So, eh, let's go back and try to understand how Bitcoin is mined. um, it's just mined out of thin air, right? To even think about it, you have a mining machine, and when you mine, you get Bitcoin. It's very simple. So even for you, you're like, oh, is that easy? Let me also go and do it. But then you realize, hey, you need a bigger machine to do this. You need to spend a lot of money to get that mining, and you have to get lucky to get it also, right? So there's many aspect of it. So the difficulty to get it creates value for the Bitcoin that comes in, right? So if you spend say 10 lakhs rupees in your setup, and then you mine one Bitcoin. So automatically for you, that value for that Bitcoin is at least 10 lakhs, right? How much you invest becomes your basic, whether
Correct.
it's your investment. So
Hmm.
that's how the crypto industry work, right? The Bitcoin mining automatically creates value by making it difficult for people to get an asset, right? Or get this Bitcoin. So just to give you an idea, similarly, within the gaming space, what I see is like you have to play the game spend time to get to a level to get that same asset, right? So for example, if you spend 1 hour to get a token,
Hmm.
by playing it skillfully, that means whatever your 1 hour is worth, like say my 1 hour is worth $5, $10, $100, $500. So for me, I spent 1 hour, and so it's worth $100. That
Hmm.
means at least for me, that asset is worth $1, right? And
Correct.
so and so forth, the value of the asset comes in.
So
It's
it's a
it's
game of your own perception. I mean,
Correct,
depending
correct.
on what
There's
time I spend.
time
Hmm.
involved, right?
Correct.
And
Hmm.
it comes in. And what happens is when more and more players come in, the difficulty goes up, right? So instead of you getting in 1 hour, it gets 2 hours, which means you're spending 2 hours to get that. And so and so forth. Now it is, if it was before $100, now it's $200 worth of time that you spend.
Hmm.
And slowly, when you have the network effect coming in, there's value that is coming in, right? So the whole idea is that you play a game, and there is some proof of play that happens, right, in some way.
Hmm.
And it completely depends upon game to game, and I think that's a different discussion itself. But let's say in a very simplified form, you have to reach a stage B or C, or you're competing with somebody. So every time there's a win, there is a reward. But the that win gets difficult and difficult, right? So because more people are doing it, and then automatically the value of the asset also, like maybe 100 people are trying, only two gets it, or five
Hmm.
gets it. So that means the value is more because so much time
Correct.
has been gone into it.
Hmm.
People are spending time. So that's the high level of economics around it,
Hmm.
right? Time, value, and difficulty, all of these playing together to
Hmm.
sort of do this. And now in terms of the game can be, it's just an application. It can, if it's using the principles, it
Hmm.
can be a game of uh, it can be a very fun, simple game to
Hmm.
Tetris to something else. So it
Hmm.
can have different genres
Hmm.
within the game, and that's the beauty. I mean, that is where the talent of a game developer comes in. How do they integrate that those kind of models within their gameplay? And I think what we have seen, and too early to say it's failed, right, is because these models are very new, because this does not exist in the Web 2 world, right? There's no, in Web 2 world, you only spend money, you never get money out of the game. So you're only paying somewhere. But here there is coming out also. There is something called a secondary market. There are many things around. So this is so many variables to play around with. We just saw there is interest in it, and we saw one model just going up, and we saw, okay, there is some potential, because
Hmm.
people are ready to spend more money into
Correct.
it.
Hmm.
But we have not got the models right yet.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't think so that we are too far away. It's probably a matter of time where somebody gets it really right. We are working
Hmm.
on some models which we are
Hmm.
trying to open source to games, so that they can adopt
Hmm.
and do a better job. But the whole idea is that we will go through that revolution, and it'll be much better. So
Hmm.
going back, right, like there was so many L1 chains in 2013, 14, 15. Most
Hmm.
of them did not survive. Some of them did. Ethereum came in, they survived. Along with Ethereum, there's so many things. So these are all cycles, right? And I think we have to be patient, and also be smart, and in terms of building solutions around this.
Correct. So I completely agree with you that we have to be patient. So I was at some seminar yesterday, and there was somebody asked about regulations in crypto, that how retail is happening. She said that it took 30 years for the government to create regulations for running a car, and that's such a simple thing which you don't even realize. She said you had to make, because earlier it was only a cart. There was a person who used to run before a cart, riding a red flag saying that there's a cart coming. So I think and for crypto, I think it's hardly been 10 years, so we can still wait for 20 years. Hopefully not, but I completely agree that we have to be patient, and maybe if P2E failed initially, there were some learnings which will come out of it.
Absolutely, and it's not like, so in 2017, 18, I think I told you this before, right? I used to call a blockchain game, sorry, gaming studios, convincing them to build for blockchain games, and they used to always hang up on me saying, it's a scam. Bitcoin is a scam, and it doesn't play well. People don't want to make money out of game, things around it. And luckily, the Axie happened, and suddenly all these guys are like, hey, there is something that I missed. I would want to understand more. So there's more interest. So from comparing 2017-18, there are more games who are actually building for Web3, right? And it's not just showing interest. So things have completely changed from in just 2 years. And I think a lot more smarter people are working on the problem, and I'm pretty sure we'll see some solutions coming very soon.
Awesome. To a lot of people who don't know Siddharth, in his last podcast, he told me that his first business was around gaming, of creating and selling Counter Strike game maps, if I remember it
No, I was not
correctly.
selling it. I was not selling it, but I was just passionately building it. So
Correct.
I used to make maps, get my friends to play, and then realize, okay, it is one sided. Then I would make a change. Next day, call them again, and it was more college fun. That's it.
Okay. Okay. So Siddharth, as a gamer, you have been a gamer in your life. Probably you still play games. What are some of the key factors which people should keep in mind while they are creating certain games to keep the engagement on? And I would say engagement is the first. I would say engagement is the real currency for a gamer and for a game, and the real currency might come later. So, what are your tips to people who are actually building games?
Absolutely. I think I call it the variable rewards. There's a lot of modelings around it. Like the hooks variable reward, where you put in effort and you get a variable reward. The probability of you getting more is much more higher if you're skillful, or you get it early on easily, and then later on, as in when you spiral through, it gets more and more difficult doing the same stages again and again.
Hmm.
And there are tons of things around just how to build a great game. I'm probably not an expert at how good games should be built. I mean,
Hmm.
I think it by itself is an art, right? Like to just build something.
Hmm.
Sometimes games are so simple and still so addictive. I don't know how they do it. Like that's crazy. But where I can talk about more is
Hmm.
how to build game more economically sustainable. That is from a
Hmm.
Web3 perspective.
Hmm.
Like because let's assume that you can crack a good game, right? So you need a good game for sure, one. But now what you need to crack is a good economics, a sustainable economy. And that is very important to sort of come and sort of build sustainable economy. So building sustainable economy requires inflation, right? So there is something called as inflation within the game. So if you're always rewarding token, and there is too many tokens, then automatically there's too much supply, which basically brings your economy down. And you have to think about something called a secondary market. Secondary market is once your token is emitted or an asset is emitted, there has to be a way for it to have a resale value in the secondary market. A typical example would be when you buy an iPhone, right? Um, what happens when after Apple does an phone sale? It does not care what's the value of that asset after the market is sold. It will
Correct.
always be depreciating asset, right? So which
Hmm.
means it never attracts a investor in that market, but it always attracts a consumer market. So that's a consumer economics. But for example, gold is a very different market, right? Gold has a store of value. So there is an investment value as well, right? Even property for that matter. So it's the same thing. Old property means more value also, like probably the space and where it is. So same thing the same money that you're putting, there are two different types of economics. And to understand that is very important, because if you have to have a right balance between consumer economy and investment economy within Web3 games. Because if you are able to create a very good demanding secondary market where people know that the value will go
Hmm.
up, so
Hmm.
which means what is going to happen is they will basically you have to control the inflation of the game.
Hmm.
How much of their token is coming in. Then there is obviously challenge like when it comes to inflation is you need these tokens to actually play the game, or token or asset, whatever we are talking about. You need these assets to actually play the game. So if you are only 10,000 users, then we are talking about, hey, it suffice 10,000 users, but what if the game
What
gets
will
stuck
become?
in 10 users? How does it work? So
Hmm.
there's a lot of challenge involved.
Hmm.
And what that has led to is, like, for us, we've been working with games, and learning from that, we have sort of built a framework of how economics should be, at least the base clean economics.
Hmm.
We call it
Which can fit in
technonomics.
on any game. So these are basic principles. which can
Correct.
fit in that.
These are
Okay, and
basic
then
principles.
customize. Okay.
So, like, top five principles of how we want to do
Hmm.
it. Probably I'll discuss that much more in detail later.
Hmm.
But following this, it basically what we are trying to say is, hey, if the game just follows this, at least their 80% of the problem is sorted. Like they're in the right framework. And of course, now it comes into their thinking of how they can improve it further or make it even better. But that's how it sort of works around.
Got it. So what are those five mantras of success, Siddharth? If you like to reveal those on our podcast today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think so for technonomics we have five very important models or principles to sort of work on. One
Hmm.
is solving for liquidity, right?
Hmm.
Most of the game assets have a very illiquid secondary market. When you have a very illiquid secondary market, it's very difficult for somebody to do a bulk buy or sell. And you would say why you need bulk buy or sell, right? But like if people are only buying $10, $20, you cannot absorb, say, $10,000 or $20,000 or $50,000. So you're losing out an opportunity right there, right? So much capital coming in. Ideally it should be designed for taking as much as capital, or both side, taking in and
Hmm.
taking out. So that's, building for liquidity is very important. And I'll go into that part one, the liquidity part, a little later. Second part is predictable supply. It's important to understand how supply is being emitted, right? If for example, in Axie's case, you had 10,000 users, they had 10,000 SLP coming out, right, every day, and suddenly the user base went to half a million. You had half a
Hmm.
million SLP coming
Hmm.
in,
Hmm.
and then it went to 1 million.
Hmm.
Okay, 1 million SLP. But then when the user base came down to 100K, you had
Hmm.
so much extra supply within the
Hmm.
market, which
Hmm.
basically crashed the entire market right
Okay.
there.
Which they're
And
not anticipated, maybe.
yeah, and it's from a trader's perspective, or somebody
Hmm.
who's putting a big money into it. It's so ambiguous for him to do this trade, right? Because
Hmm.
he's risking too much
Hmm.
in this. So that is very important to sort of think about, how you sort of design supply, predictable supply. So a good example would be Ethereum or Bitcoin. Whether it is one miner, two miner, three miner, the rate at which the Bitcoin is mined is always going to be constant. So much so that when will be the last Bitcoin will be mined, some
Hmm.
21, 41. Those
Hmm.
numbers are coming because there's a predictability of how the supply curve
Correct.
looks like. And I think it's very important to know that. Like, for example, in the gold market,
Hmm.
when a new ore is found, immediately, even though it is not even extracted out, the
Hmm.
price drops, right, immediately, because they know that more supply is
Anticipated.
coming.
Right.
And if in the normal market, they know what is the rate of new supply coming to the market, how much
Hmm.
mining has been done in the gold market, and same goes for oil, same goes for many many commodities around the world.
Hmm.
So it's not something completely new. This is something that is existing economics, and we are just saying, hey, these are the guys who are going to also put in money here, and how do you design something that is more sustainable? So that is the sustainability part of it, from a predictable supply point of view. The third most important part, which we have to all understand, is that you cannot build a game only for riches, right? So you can't build a game where you always have to buy something and get started. You have to build a game which has to be also for somebody who's just getting started, who doesn't have money.
Hmm.
uh, I mean, there is free to play, but I don't think so. Free to play comes in real life. You don't do things for free in any economy, right? You don't just do things for free. Everything comes at a cost. Your time comes at a cost. So I don't believe in free to play, but I do believe in another economy is like service economy. So in real life, right? Either you build your own factory and produce stuff, or you work for which you need investment. You put in things and you have to wait for the ROI to come in. Probably takes a year or more, or you work for somebody else and you get paid by the hour, and you just and help him produce whatever you want. So if you have the money, you do it. If you don't have the
Hmm.
money, you work for somebody else.
Correct.
I think that sort of economy comes in here as well. We
Hmm.
call it service economy, where if you don't have the money, you can play for somebody who has already bought the assets and don't have the time. You just play for him, and you get rewarded or paid from him directly, and still be part of the economy, right? So, and someday if you have more money, you can have your own stuff. So I think this is how the service economy make it more sustainable for a game to get started. And I think the last bit, the point four, is where the governance comes in. We have to understand no economy is set in stone. Everything has to be flexible, especially
Correct.
we are into evolution. So you need
Mm,
governance which changes rules. Voting comes in. People holding more assets can vote for change in their emission rate, or how much impact that creates within the game. Many things around that can sort of come in. And I think
mm,
to think about it like that, you have an basic sustainable cycle, which at least makes it much more solid to sort of work with. And
mm.
there's one more around it, which is called time decay, but we'll get into
Mm.
later because it's a little too complicated.
Correct, correct. So you're saying that these are the five basic principles which any game should deploy, and then obviously then they customize. But these are something which should be there as a basic hygiene.
Absolutely, and these are principles, right? How do you put it within the game is different.
Different.
There are games like Crop Bites, which I know they've been doing that, and they
Hmm.
have done it in a different way. They call it,
Hmm.
so it's like a Farmville type of game. In
Hmm.
that, they call the input as appetite. So appetite of a cow increases, which means input increases to create an asset. So
Hmm.
which is basically like playing the difficulty game, like the predictable supply I spoke about. Uh,
Okay.
so getting into more deeper about this, I'll probably go into that one by one.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, so that's how you sort of control supply. And
Hmm.
if the difficulty of the game goes up, you need more skill to play, and automatically that's an ecosystem you build.
Got it. So like a real world economy in which either you can trade your time to make money, or you can make money by, I mean, if you have money, it is easy to trade the time. So whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you have money, you can start
Save
your own
your time.
startup and hire people,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
In a very very high level, it's
Mm-hmm.
very easily said and done. You can invest
Correct.
in people. There are many things that happens, and I think that kind of behavior has evolved over many centuries to come to where
Mm-hmm.
we are today. So
Mm-hmm.
breaking that today, I think that'll be foolishness. We just
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
take it to
Why to
another level.
reinvent the whole wheel? Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
and take it to Web3, see how
Mm-hmm.
it is, and maybe we'll come up with another better model later. But I
Right.
think today we should just take it to
Stick
Web3.
to the basics.
Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
sticking to fundamentals. Yeah.
Correct. And Siddharth, we also have been hearing a lot of NFT use cases in gaming. I mean, we have seen art, music, but I think there's a huge use case which will be of NFT in gaming. So why don't you tell our audience something about that? That what are some interesting use cases which you see NFT will bring, and will it bring more adoption towards gaming, or how the future looks like with NFT in gaming currently?
Absolutely. I think so. So there are PFP projects. PFP projects are primarily art projects.
Sorry, what
Uh,
is PFP project? If you could explain it.
like the JPEG projects, like the Board
Okay.
Ape, where it's primarily art based. So there is a
Hmm.
collection of say 10,000 such assets or 20,000 such assets,
Hmm.
and there is a club that is created.
Hmm.
So that's an exclusive club kind of use case where with that NFT you get access to certain community, or you get access to certain IP, or you get access to certain goodies. Like I own one of the assets, NFTs, and I got a jacket. So so like that, there are different types of use cases that everybody is trying it out. So that's very community driven. But the thing about that is there's only 10,000 or a very
Right.
limited NFTs
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
And if you want to build a game on top of it, it's very difficult to say, hey, you can only have 10,000 players, right?
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
too small for that.
Yeah, you're restricting yourself. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what.
correct.
Correct.
So I think they play a very different role. But to think about how it comes to gaming, we'll have to think about it, right? Like how it comes, we'll have to. I mean, unless of course they create airdrop more assets, utility assets, which you use within the game, maybe it makes sense. But at this point, right, it's a little different world. So you have the art world, which is all these board apes, club world around it. So that is one use case for NFTs that is thriving. And I think that's also something that changed the entire crypto industry, because in 2017, 18, or probably till 19, a lot of people, when they think about crypto, it was only for nerds, like, people who have to understand how things work. There's a lot of technicality around it, and DeFi, very difficult to understand, trading only. But I think late 2019 or early 2020 or maybe mid 20s, when the NFT boom came in, where suddenly you had a use case for artists, right, who
Right.
are nowhere close to tech, were nowhere
Mm-hmm.
close to coding, and
Mm-hmm.
they felt that, hey, this is what Web3 is for me, right? Till that time, it was only for nerds, and
Mm-hmm.
suddenly they jump onto the bandwagon, and that opened up a lot more variety of how NFT or tokens can be used within the ecosystem, and onboarded a new set of people, and of course the gaming again, that onboarded another good set of people. So I think overall there's a lot of action happening around NFT, particularly when you look at gaming. Gaming is very utility driven. The assets would be more utility driven, and that's pretty interesting, because it's important to play with an asset which is very utility driven. Then there's a sustainable demand over time, right? And most of these like the games that came in the past, they have more tokens and assets. Tokens actually have very little utility within the game, but assets have good utility but traded very less within the game. So there's a lot of disparity, there's a lot of problems that needs to be solved. But to me, the big winner would be the game assets over time, because ultimately it has sustainable demand, that the game drives, and creates more utility, which in turn is good to be part of, right? So I think we'll see a lot of evolution around just this, to get it right. But pretty sure in the next cycle we should see a good example of how things can be.
Correct, correct. And now putting a devil's hat on you, Siddharth. Let's say, so what do you think are the risks which are involved with NFT, with gaming? I mean, and I know these things is something. If everything goes wrong, what do you think is going to happen to the industry?
I think crypto has seen multiple deaths. Uh,
Hmm.
I've been involved in crypto passively for a long time, but actively since 2017.
Hmm.
Uh,
How
and
many
I have
times have you seen it die?
Yeah, I have seen it so many times. Like, hey, it's over. You know,
Uh,
it's just over. This happened. Okay, it's over.
hmm.
U.S. government said this. Okay, it's over.
Hmm.
Somebody said this. It's over. Or Indian government said it's over. But it did
Hmm.
not stop there. Right? It is definitely an inevitable future. It's like,
Hmm.
you're trying to stop the internet, but
Hmm.
internet has so many
Cannot
good
stop.
sides that is not. It's unstoppable. It's going to happen. And
Correct.
and personally, I believe in it. I,
Hmm.
yes, there are a lot of roadblocks, compliances,
Hmm.
regulations. Many things have to be solved. But I think
Hmm.
eventually everybody's working towards solving this,
Hmm.
and making it amazing, right?
And do you foresee any kind of regulatory framework coming in NFT space, in gaming and finance as well? Like currently we are seeing a lot of crypto, but do you anticipate that as well?
Absolutely. Eventually, yes, or
Hmm.
maybe even now, right?
Hmm.
Because see, if you think about it, all these things came in a shock, right? Like
Hmm.
2 years, everything started changing, or maybe
Hmm.
3 years. Maybe like 5 years back, nobody was looking into it, but
Hmm.
suddenly all the governments are taking it seriously, trying to figure it out. How does it work? Or
Hmm.
putting a task force to sort of go more deeper into understanding this. So
Hmm.
to me, I think definitely we will see a lot more, maybe sandboxing coming in, trying
Hmm.
this out. And it's a good thing. There may be sometimes bad regulation being passed and then later realized and changed.
Yes.
But it's going to be an industry that's going to be, changing every
Hmm.
day. And we
Hmm.
have seen that in last 2 weeks, the SSC coming alive, and then
Correct.
week after that everything becomes better, and left and right. So many things are happening around, but I'm pretty sure that it's definitely part of it, and we just
Right.
have to adopt to it, right? Like whatever the regulations are coming in.
Correct. So we are in the industry which don't let us sleep, and that's why all these dark circles do. All the Web3 people, the moment
Absolutely,
you
absolutely. I
get
think
something changes.
I've been an entrepreneur for 18 years, but running an exchange is a different story. It's a different. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or night. Anything can happen, right?
Correct.
So
You
amazing.
get up and something is completely changed in the world.
Absolutely. Either it's market going up or some system has gone down because market has gone up, and there's a lot of stories around it. So
Correct.
it's never 9 to 5 job ever, right? It's just anytime.
And I think that's, I mean, I was reading somewhere that Web3, the three stands for number of hours which you get to sleep in this industry. And that's what we all have been facing. But thank you very much, Siddharth, on coming to this second podcast, and I requested Siddharth last week that we should do that because there are a lot of interesting questions on gaming which I don't wanted to let Siddharth go without answering those questions. And we wish you all the best for the Tegro, and hoping to see that you are going to change the whole gaming economy as well, and lead this future. So people who are interested in gaming do follow Siddharth. And how can they get in touch with you if my users wants to talk to you? What are those ways?
Yeah, I think the best place to get in touch is Twitter. I'm very open. My DMs are open. My handle is Buddha Source, BUDDHA SOURCE. Just search me, add me. Any questions you have, I'm happy to help. I've been always helping entrepreneurs, not just now, but since whenever I get a chance. And I want to sort of I believe when I was starting off, right, there were very little mentors, but I want to sort of make sure that anybody starting off, I'm there for them, and both in terms of gaming in general. But and if you're especially looking into
Likewise.
gaming space, I think there's a lot to be done here.
Great, great. Siddharth, thank you again, and we wish you all the best, and I'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Abhishek. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys.